What is going on, guys? We are back with another WoW video. Now, I know I up and left. The last video I created was like 2 weeks ago, but I was having some computer difficulties and I just did not feel motivated to create any content. Kind of burnt myself out. But we're back. We are doing another WoW video. Yes, and in today's video, we are going to go through the Vault of the Incarnates. I actually did some normal PTR testing. I actually never ever PTR test. I never have. This was my first time ever doing it. So I'm gonna give you guys my initial opinions on all of the bosses, excluding the final boss, because obviously we can't test it. And overall, the raid as an entire, an entirety. And just kind of tell you where I hope Blizzard makes some changes. They have made some changes since this video is being recorded, and there is some background footage here that you can see the bosses and everything like that. But let's get into the first boss. Alright, we are here with the first boss, Erenog. Airnog is your traditional first boss, very limited mechanics, and he's overall not too difficult. Now, the video you're going to be seeing here is normal, and overall, I only tested normal, the normal fights. I have not done mythic or heroic. I just was not available to do those. So I'm just going to be talking about normal and just overall how the fight plays out. He's a pretty easy boss. He has a typical tank stack ability. You taunt around 6-7 stacks, however many you guys want to take. The main mechanic that he does is basically he puts a circle around a whole bunch of players, and everyone needs to kind of group up around each other. As you can see there are the lava pools there. You group up around each other, and when they explode, these ads spawn that then fixate onto a target, and you just gotta kill them. He also has a frontal cleave. A very, very simple fight that doesn't really take much, right? Like, we just kind of went in here and we just blasted the boss. Yeah, it's normal mode, obviously, but we were scaled down to 275 item level, I think it was. So not terribly easy by any means in terms of DPS and everything like that, but overall, generally a pretty easy fight. He does have a very interesting intermission mechanic. It reminds me of the End Time Dungeon Sylvanas fight. Basically, let's see if I can skip around here. Hope he's going to do it right here, which is great. Basically, he's going to spawn these flame infernals around the room, and they're going to all be connected, and you just got to kill one, and it'll open up a little space, and you run through. Now, I know for Mythic, there's going to be one that spawns in the middle as well, so basically, you have to DPS race both of them down in order to open up that little bit of gap. And if they go through the fire, I think it's a heroic mechanic, but if they go through the lava pools, they speed up. So overall, it's not terribly bad. I actually enjoyed this fight for the most part. It seems like there's a lot going on, but there really isn't. Is it way better than the Sepulchre first boss? Absolutely. That's a good sign. That is a very good sign. But let's go on to the second boss. Now, the second boss is Taros. He is a big stone man in the ground. He is a tank, another tank and spank fight. Nothing too terribly hard to deal with. Basically, people are going to get these small yellow circles that are going to spawn pillars, and then there's going to be a big one that everyone has to soak. So basically, you want to create like a square pattern with the big one in the middle, and then the tanks will get a beam on them that they need to use to take down these pillars. Very, very, very easy. He does have a mini enrage mechanic where he, fills up each, there's 3/4 of the room. It's either 3/3 of the room, 1/3 of the room, or 1/4 of the room. I forget which one it is. But basically, it's a mini and range mechanic. This is your typical tank and spank fight. There's going to be a lot of healing going on Mythic, because each time you break the pillar, everyone gets a dot. And every time a pillar is up, as you can see here, everyone's taking a lot of damage because I broke 4 pillars at once. But overall, another very easy fight. Reminds me a lot of Skull-X, where he has some very important mechanics, but there's very limited of them. Overall, I think this is a great fight. I think it's going to be a really good fight. Now, I'm not making a tier list or ranking or anything like that. I'm just giving my initial opinions, considering I actually tested them. But let's go to the third boss. The third boss is Senarth. Senarth is a massive spider, so if you're an arachnophobe like me, you're gonna hate this boss. But overall, this boss wasn't too bad. It was basically just a giant gauntlet. As you'll see in the video here, it was a giant gauntlet where you basically ran up the side of the cliff and followed the spider. Ad spawned, and then there was a mechanic that would pull you in. And when, you know, these circles spawned on you, there would be like web on the ground, so you could stand in the web and the thing wouldn't pull you as much, as you can see here. Overall, a very basic mechanic that I think this will be the first bigger wall of Mythic. Since this raid is an 8 boss raid, we're gonna get that bigger wall earlier on. That, you know, that what was the big wall in Sepulchre? I guess it was Prototype, maybe Zymox type difficulty, right? Where it's not gonna be your 1, 2, 3 shot pull boss, gonna be maybe 20-ish pulls, I think, as people get used to the mechanics. Now you just basically go up the side, ad spawn, you kill the ads, and then once the spider gets to the top, it'll basically jump down and it's a burn phase. So the health percentage does not have an impact on how fast the spider goes up, which is good to see. It means as reclears get more and more, you know, as you get more and more gear from reclears, you're just gonna shred this boss. And as you'll, let me see if I can skip forward here in the recording to the end of the fight. We kill the boss before it even hits the final platform. So overall, it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a pretty decent fight. One of the least favorite ones that I did in the raid, that wasn't actually like a bad fight itself. But yeah, let's go on to the next one. Alright, the fourth boss is Karakgrim Totem. This is your first massive mechanic level boss. Basically, there are 4 totems around the room, and whichever quadrant the boss is in, he gets those abilities. So we start out here in the lightning corner. I don't think that was the best idea or best decision, but we did. So he basically, you know, has a tank ability, has a DPS ability, and as he gets more and more energy, his abilities become more empowered. So what you want to do is you want to make sure he gets up to about 80, 90 energy. I'm opening up my options. That's great. Bet to 80, 90 energy, and then you want to move him to the next one. As you can see here, he's about 75, 78 energy. We move him over because once he hits 100 energy, he is going to spawn an ad and do a big mechanic, right? You never want him to hit 100 energy when he has a lot of stacks in one area. If you look at the boss, when I actually target him here, we'll see when I target him next. He's going to have 10 stacks of the lightning debuff, and he is going to have 3 stacks of, or an X amount of stacks, I haven't really seen what it was, of the earth debuff. And that's how you determine right there, right, how strong the boss is and how strong his mechanics are. But overall, it's a ton of mechanics. It's a lot of, you know, thought out play. I think this boss is really going to come down to, you know, the strat, the optimal strat that everyone runs. You're going to move him at 66% because it means he has the least amount of damage and everything like that. But basically, you want to kill him before you get back to the first quadrant, right? Because if you don't, he's going to have the maximum number of stacks on those abilities, or a ton of stacks on those abilities, and start shredding your team. But yeah, there's a ton of mechanics, and I'm not going to go through all of them. You kind of see some of them here. But overall, it's an interesting fight. I think it's going to be probably pretty good. So yeah, let's get on to the next one. It is now time for the worst boss in the entire raid. It is the Primalist Council. This boss sucks. There's basically, you know, 4 bosses. 2 of them need to be interrupted. 2 of them need to be tanked. And each boss basically does a mechanic that then plays into another boss's mechanics. The lightning boss will give you a circle on the ground that you need to stand beside the earth boss's pillars. You know, and the fire boss, right, does this spawn thing where you gotta soak it all, right? And then when the ice boss does his blizzard, you need to step into the fire, right, in order to make sure you don't get frozen from the blizzard. It's just a ton of mechanics, and as you can see here, this is normal. This is normal. This is a normal boss. This has the mechanics of a mythic boss. This reminds me of Prototype Pantheon, and Prototype Pantheon was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. So I really hope, and they have nerfed and reworked a little bit about this fight, but overall this I think is going to be the worst fight in the entire raid, though there is another boss coming up that I think might take the cake for that. But yeah, this boss was awful. We actually ended up wiping to this boss just from pure mechanics. We didn't mess anything up. Like, there was just so much damage and so much going on. It was a real bad time, to be honest. But yeah, this boss sucked. It sucked real bad. We are on to the 6th boss, and if you can't see what it is one of the bosses from the Primalist Council. Yes, it is the wind / lightning boss from the Primalist Council fight. Dathia the Ascended. This fight's actually pretty interesting. I only did it on normal, and I actually heard that the fight's a little bit better on heroic and mythic because it involves some platforms and stuff like that. But basically, there's a ton of tornadoes and cyclones. There's a lot of like running away and movement abilities. When the boss hits 100 energy, 2 ads spawn. You kill those 2 ads, and when they die, they blow up and knock you back. Basically, what you want to do is you want to use that knockback to get onto the platforms. It's actually a pretty decent, designed fight overall. But I think this boss is going to be pretty tough. I think this is going to be the Council of Blood or the Halandris area of bosses, where it's going to be your 70 to 100 pull boss for the average guild. When it comes to mythic, I may be wrong about that. This boss may be extremely undertuned, or it could be extremely overtuned like Halandris was, and it takes 400 pulls or however much. But I'm excited to see how the Race the World First, as you can see here, the knockback, we kill both of them at the same time and everyone goes flying. It's crazy. But I'm excited to see how the Race the World First deals with this boss fight, as it seems like it's very basic, but it has some really important mechanics that you gotta do. Yeah. On to the last boss we know about. And the last boss we've tested is Broodkeeper. Broodkeeper looks like SLG and KT 2.0. This boss fight looks pretty bad. We literally pulled it once, and we decided to never go back because we saw many logs of, high-end guilds that were consistently wiping on this boss and not killing it and not pulling it, and we said, we're in a pug, why would we do this? But what we know is there's a staff that you use to open up these eggs, and when these eggs spawn, you gotta kill them. But when the eggs are close, or when the ads are close to the boss, they take reduced damage or do increased damage. So it's a really it's a fight where it's a lot of ad control, and those fights generally do suck. We see Vigilant Guardian, we see Stone Legion Generals, we see KT, and as you can see here, we are wiping. And we said, this boss, we're not getting it done. We're not going to do it. So yeah, we decided to leave. But overall, this boss fight looks terrible. I'm not excited for this one. I hope this one is actually generally pretty good once the mechanics are figured out and the strategy is figured out. But yeah, that's my initial opinion on the Vault of the Incarnates bosses. I actually officially had seen them. Now, I've created videos like this before for, Sepulcher and for Sanctum of Domination, where I actually hadn't really seen the boss fights. I've just read up on them. But overall, I think this raid looks pretty good. There's only about 2 bosses out of the 8 that are generally really bad, and overall, like, a pretty good thing. When there's 8 bosses and only 2 of them are bad, like, that's not bad at all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to stay tuned. I am going to be back to uploading more content now that my computer's like kind of fixed. I'm not 100% sure if it's fixed or not. It was crashing a ton, but thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.